Hey everyone, this time on Tim Talks Audio, we're checking out the Analog Stage MK2 from HoRNet Audio. We've worked with the guys at HoRNet Audio before, and today we're checking out the Analog Stage MK2. This is a console-style saturator that you can put across individual elements of your mix, or like in our example today, we're going to put this across our entire mix. There's a lot of flexibility with this plugin, but there's a few controls. So let's dive into the DAW and take a look. So here is the Analog Stage MK2 from HoRNet Audio. And you can see immediately there's what looks like a bunch of controls, but a lot of these are tied together. So let's very quickly go over all of the different controls. On the left-hand side, you have your input and output controls here, so you can adjust your gain staging to make sure that what you're putting in and getting out of the plugin isn't really altering the volume of things, because we want to make clear decisions and not just be affected by volume. There is the link IO, so that you can see how I've already have the -6 on my input and +6 on my output. This is so that my volume of across my whole mix doesn't change. And you can turn that off by clicking on the button. If your signals are really low, you can push the mic button and get a 20 dB boost right at the input stage, but we're not going to do that now. And there's also a phase invert if you need to invert your phase. Then you have your auto button. Here is where Analog Stage will do the job for you of address and analyze the signal coming in and adjust the input and output, or just the input in this case, if you don't have link on, to make sure that you're not driving too hard. Sometimes you do on an analog console. You want to drive it a little bit harder. But with the auto button, it does the work for you, and it uses the control underneath, which you can adjust by clicking and dragging to set where your VU meters, or where your signals are going to land on your imaginary VU meters. And there is a peak/VU meter up on top here. And when I was messing with this before, I liked +2. To the right of that is your saturation style. You can click on this and go with op amp, transistor, or tube. I went with tube in this example today. And then here's something that's really cool, is the age of your saturation style. So I have a tube that just happens to be 3 years old. Just like our VU meter, you can click and drag this up or down to get either a new style of saturation, so 0 years old, this is a brand new tube, or you can crank it all the way up to 30 years old. This is a tube that's been used and abused for 30 years. For some reason, still in good enough condition, but you can hear the degradation. And we'll do this in a little bit. Let's get this back to kind of a newer tube at 3 years old. Then down here, you have a built-in high pass and low pass filter. So you can filter out the signals you have going in. This is across my whole mix, so I'm not going to do it right now. You can dial in some analog hiss. This is something you would hear from tape if you were going to tape in the day, maybe even vinyl. And you can adjust this however you want. Clicking the button engages it, and then you can set how loud or how quiet the volume is from the control above it. And then you have the saturation, which is kind of a benefit saturation. You're still going to get some with the plugin being on and your saturation type selected, but you can really dial it in with the saturation and control above it. And then if you want, you can either load some presets that you make yourself by hitting the save button. So there's our load and save down on bottom. That's a real quick once-over of the plugin itself. But now we need to get into how does it sound. And we'll do that by actually taking off saturation and just kind of leaving things the way I had it before. You'll notice that right now I have the plugin on bypass, and I have a very rough mix going on right now, but I think it's pretty well balanced. There's a little bit of compression here and there and a little bit of EQ just to make things kind of sit a little better. So here's the mix on its own.
I'll praise you forever, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. In the darkness, you see me, you make the night shine like the day. And you're always with me, and there's nowhere that I can run from you, nowhere that I can hide. You're always with me, Lord. Yes, you're always with me. And there's nowhere that I can run from you, nowhere that I can hide. You're always with me, Lord. You're right by my side. I'll praise you forever, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. In the darkness, you see me. You make the night shine like the day. And you're always with me. And there's nowhere that I can run from you, nowhere that I can hide. You're always with me, Lord. Yes, you're always with me. And there's nowhere that I can run from you, nowhere that I can hide. You're always with me, Lord. You're right by my side. When I'm the
So we did a bunch of things in that demo right there. We adjusted the saturation and we've changed what type of transistors or components are in our chain by going from op amp to transistors to tube. We cranked the age of those things so you can hear how, as things degrade, what it does to the audio and the different frequencies that it affects. So a lot of it is the top ends. You'll notice how the top end of everything either gets really dull or kind of brittle sounding. We didn't use them today, but there is the high pass and low pass built in, and you can adjust the high pass from 20 hertz all the way up to just under 2000 hertz. I think it probably is, but we're not going to judge with the numbers here. And then you have your low pass, which goes all the way from 1K up to, again, 20K. Let's be honest here. I didn't want to do that across my whole mix because I don't want to lose any of those frequencies, but you heard we did a couple on and off comparisons in there. So the plugin is definitely imparting some sound, even with the saturation button on or off. So the idea of this plugin is that you can dial in your saturation or some of the analog console sounds that we're kind of used to from the records that we know and love from the analog days, as well as from today. This will help add a little bit of glue or harmonics to your sound because of the saturation that you're getting. If you feel like you need just a little bit of excitement, Analog Stage MK2 might be just what you're looking for. For me, though, this has kind of limited uses. There's a lot of tools out there. This one is good, especially because you're able to adjust the age of things. So if you're really going for a particular kind of sound, you can just degrade it by increasing the age of whatever thing you're working on and getting some of that sound. I would really use this for a lot of sound design kind of things, or if I'm taking sections of a song and kind of era placing them. If I want something to sound like it's from the 80s, I'm just going to take this, put it to 30 years old, and that's not exactly the 80s, but maybe it's something from the 80s getting used today. We can go in here as well and just make things a little old as if it was from the 80s or 90s and give it some of that kind of characteristics as well. That's all for now. If you found anything informative, please like and share the video. For mixing or lesson information, or you just want to join the community, jump into the Discord. There's a link down in the description. And if you have a question, ask it in a comment and I'll answer it in a future video. Thanks for watching.